Welcome to our third Moza Founder Talk. I'm Dr. Dave Sanders, I'm Moza co-founder, and I'm here with my co-founder, Dr. Sara Gillham, Dr. Sara. And today we're going to talk about the Moza.ai app's self-care experiment, SelfEx, ability to help you understand what we call MyAnswer and then MyDecision. This is the third episode, and the first two episodes, we first covered the 6 steps to a self-care experiment, and then in the last to creating one, and the last one we discussed how to join and then run a self-care experiment. So Sara, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. So today we're going to be looking at can you hear me?
Yes, but maybe even a little bit louder though. Maybe can you boost it a little bit?
I don't know how to turn up my microphone. I'll just try to speak more loudly. Is that
okay? That sounds good to me.
Okay. Turn up the volume on myself. So today we're going to be looking at the MyAnswer and MyDecision steps in the process, right?
That's it. That's right. And so, let me ask you before you start though, for those that missed the first 2 episodes, what are the take-home points, would you say?
Well, let's see. Yeah, looking back at the last one in particular, first I have a question for you, Dave. Remind me how much Americans spent on self-care last year.
Well, they spent just alone on supplemental products, supplements, and nutraceuticals, over 300 and similar devices in that space, let alone from services, over $300 billion.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Yeah, so that is huge. So last week, a little bit of what we started off with, it was really the 4 fates of self-care efforts. And when we think about it in that context of people spending $300 billion on self-care and more in time, energy, and other areas of self-care. And we think about the 4 fates that we outlined last time around 3 undesirable fates and 1 desirable, 3 being the abandoned effort, the autopilot repurchase, the now what, and the 1 desirable fate being the oh yes or oh no. That's a huge amount of time, money, and effort that's going into those 3 undesirable fates where people are abandoning them partway through, just getting distracted by something else, not really following through, seeing if it works and setting it to the side. The autopilot being, it's supposed to be good for me, so I guess I'll just keep buying. And then the now what being, I guess I don't know, maybe I'll buy it now, maybe I won't buy it next time, and just kind of, half-heartedly using something. Yeah. And not really getting to that clear, oh yes or oh no, yes, it does work for me, no, it doesn't. I'm going to keep investing in it, or I'm not going to invest in it. So we went through those 4 fates last week, and really how people get to those 3 undesirable fates around having the incorrect plan, just not having exactly the right amount or timing, et cetera, or the inconsistent execution where it's hard to just adhere to the plan that they laid out. They're impatient, they don't necessarily do it for long enough, or unrecognized change where it's just somebody doesn't necessarily see the change over time and recognize that it's working for them or making them worse.
I really appreciate those 4 fates, because I think we're aware of that, but I think you've boiled it down to I actually can kind of say, yes, I recognize that in my own behaviors.
Yeah, so then what we were looking at last week was joining a SelfEx and being able to get more and more of our own self-care efforts clearly into that oh yes or oh no category. And we do that through this self-care experiment framework where we get accountability and camaraderie, and ultimately we get clarity on whether or not it works by getting our clear answer. And that answer is what we're going to be looking at today.
Perfect. Okay.
And is there anything else from the join process that you want to touch on, Dave?
No, I think that's good. I think that's a good way to set this up for us. And so I'll look forward to digging in with you on the MyAnswer and MyDecision.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I have MyAnswer teed up for us, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so last week we ended on this page here, and this is our SelfEx runner. And the main thing that we were going through last week was our tasks, each day being able to check off exactly what we're supposed to do, doing our pre-quiz and our post-quiz so that we can collect our experiential data and get that to our answer. So when we're thinking about MyAnswer, what we do is we get the high level boiled down answer of, does it work for me? Yes, no, and a couple of in-betweens there that we'll look at. And then the components that contribute to that are experiential data. So this has to do with our lived experience and recording that experience, and that's through the quizzes. Then we have our biometric data, and this is really anything we can measure in our body. And typically we're using our wearable devices for that so that we can do it passively. We don't have to do any work. We don't have to record anything manually. It just does it for us. But there might be cases where we're collecting biometric data through actual physical measurements also. And then the third category is the biochemical, and that's typically going to be lab reports. That one's not incorporated yet, but that one's going to be coming in the future.
Okay, wonderful. So that's very clear.
Great. Okay, so let's take a look at MyAnswer. So in this self-care experiment, will a raw diet help my anxiety? We went through, we completed all of our tasks, we completed that pre-quiz, we completed the post-quiz, and now we get to see our answer. Okay, fantastic. So for this one, my answer is a yes. And we can see that in this case, my experiential data, my anxiety quiz, was a thumbs up, green thumbs up, and I got 95% improvement. And on my biometric data, my autonomic tone score, and we'll look at what that is, what goes into that a bit more on following pages, went up by 151%. So both of those data types went up.
Cool.
Yeah. And then we have some social context here. So again, the collaboration, the connecting with other people with similar problems and similar things that do and don't work is a huge part of what Moza is about. And in this case, we can see exactly how others fared here as well. So in this case, we had, let's see, one other person who was in the yes category, 2 that were in the yes but, 1 in the no but, and we had 13 in the no. And I'll pause there on those 4 different categories real quick. And we also have little explanation videos down here from Dr. DiPiero on the 4 categories. But essentially, a yes is both of these types of data went up. They both got a thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes, but is the primary data the one with the most scientific validation? The yes went up. The but means that the secondary data that's still valuable, but maybe less validation or more experimental, that one went down. So it's a yes, but.
Yes.
Inverse of that is our primary data went down. So that's going to be a no, but the secondary data went up. So we still get the but. And then a no is both of them went down and neither one worked and actually the course for you.
Tell me if you could, if not now, kind of work it in kind of how you wanted to communicate it. But I do think that one of the things I think that you've been a leader on in our team is in helping us rethink the meaning of no.
Yeah. No, I think this is a great time. And we'll probably touch on it when we get to MyDecision a little bit more as well. But all information is valuable. And actually, this will also, I'll touch on another portion that we'll be building in the future. So all information is valuable. If you get a yes, that's great. You know it works. You can keep it. You can keep putting time, energy, money into it. If it's a no, that's also fantastic. You know not to invest in that thing anymore. So that, again, that information is just as valuable because you're not wasting your energy on something that doesn't.
Yes. And
it's hard to tell.
Yes. And again, pick your moment when you want to kind of come to this, but I just want to make sure I do ask, because I think you've also, the other area that I just think that is, I've learned a lot from you on in this process is the importance of doing this in the context of a community and other people. And so you showed us there what other people, what their results are. How do you think about that as a participant in this SelfEx? What does that mean to me? How do I use that?
Yeah. So, I mean, initially here, with, our starting point, you can connect with other people who are in this SelfEx and who more specifically got answers like you did. Because again, these are going to be people with similar challenges and similar responses, and you can start to collaborate and create community around that and start to come up with ideas together around how to continue improving your health. Over time, we're going to be building in a lot more matching functionality where you can start, the more data you put in, the more the system knows you, and the more it can tell you, these people responded similarly to you on these self-experiments, and they had positive outcomes on these ones, so you might want to consider those. So that community collaboration of using data to help everybody improve their health faster is a really foundational part of the vision for how this works.
Really well said. It's really beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and actually back to the negative data being valuable. One of the things that's coming down the pipe here in the future also, you have all those areas in the running of the self-experiment where you're checking the items off and saying, yes, I did them, no, I didn't do them each day. That information is going to be pulled in here too. So we'll have a completion or an adherence score, if you will, where you can see that you adhered to it 25% or 75%, however much you completed. And that's really important for you to understand also, because if you got a no as your answer, but you only did 25% of it, that's not a failure. That's recognizing that this type of self-care isn't something that you are really interested in. It's not natural for you to put time, energy, effort into that particular type of protocol. And that's good to know. You can not do that type of experiment in the future and look for things that are a better fit for you.
That's super interesting. And I do think that it also just ties into, for us, a fundamental philosophy that we took as founders in this company, which is that true health is a lifelong self-experiment. And I think it ties to that because it's the recognition that it has to fit to be lifelong. It has to work for you. It can't be imposed, or it can't be a hair shirt,
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I think that so frequently we feel like if we don't do something 100%, if we don't adhere to the treatment plan, that we failed. And not the case. Like if it's not a fit for us, if it's not something we can follow through on, then it's just not a match, and we need to find something that is a better match.
Yeah. And without getting us off track, which I think one of the beauties of kind of working from health from this perspective, I would say unlike like conventional medicine, where there tends to be like, I think, much more narrower and specific views about what works. Like there is a tier 1 medication for this. I do think the problems that we're trying to solve, the optimizations we're pursuing, the preventions we're pursuing, I do think have a richer array of potential combinations, right? That cross over food and movements and behavioral and mindful activities. And I think that lets you better customize what works, just what suits you and what works for you. Right? I think, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the health section of any newspaper, there are tons of articles coming out every day about all the different things you can do. And if you can start cutting out tons of those because I can't swallow pills, or I'm not going to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning to do whatever. Like if you just know those things about yourself, you can cut through so much of the noise and just focus in on the things that you know that you can actually work into your life.
Cool.
Yeah, there's not a shortage of things to try. So yeah, great. Okay, fantastic. So this is our overview. We got our yes. We can see if other people got yeses and nos. The next level down is looking specifically at the experiential data. And then next after that, we'll look at the biometric data. So that'll be the next 2 pages here. Moving on to our experiential. Fantastic. So we can see that for our anxiety quiz, in this case, we had a 95% improvement, and the goal was at least a 20% improvement. So knocked that one out of the park. That one worked really well. We could also see if we had minimal improvements. So there might be cases where it improves a little bit, but it's normal to have a little bit of variation from day to day and week to week. So if you don't get enough improvement, that's not necessarily showing that it actually worked for you. And then obviously worsening is worsening. And then we have the social context here as well. So first we can see how we compared to others in terms of the percent change, and that's the score that we had up here. And then we can also see how we compared to others in terms of our actual before and after scores. And you can see here, I'm the little orange user here, and then we have a bunch of other people. So I responded really well to this particular intervention. Then we can see it looks like, we had other people kind of bouncing around. This user went from the very top to the very bottom, so it totally worked. And then we can break it down question by question. So in that quiz, this particular quiz had 7 questions, and I can see each one, whether they got worse or better. Any questions on that page, Dave, or things we should dig into?
No, I think it's very good. So basically what you took us through was, you took us through the big picture, and now you're double clicking and kind of walking us through the underlying justification, for the yes, yes, but situation, right?
Yep, and really the breakdown of the next level down, because that top level was the yes, just looking at this top level score, and this is really, how does it break down and how do I compare on the quiz side of things?
Yes.
And then next we'll look at the biometric side of things. And we have all of the same reports here. We're just looking at a different data set. So one was our conscious experience, and then the other is really what our body was doing outside our conscious control. Okay, so in this case, autonomic tone score, same thing. We can see that this one went up by 151%. For this one, it only needed to go up by 5%. So again, great improvement there. Can see again how other people are doing in terms of percent change, and then how I did and other people did in terms of the before and after scores. And then this one's kind of fun. For the biometric, you do get your daily data, so you can see the actual change over time. And for anxiety, we have resting heart rate and heart rate variability as the 2 measures we got from our device. And you can see that our heart rate variability went up into the green zone, which is good. And we can see that our resting heart rate went down into the green zone, which is also good.
That's really cool. So speaking of your fitness tracker, of your wearable, I know you have a Fitbit on. I saw there. I've got my Fitbit on here. I think a common question people will ask, is, well, I already have a Fitbit. Like, why do I need to do this? Can't I get the same information right from my Fitbit? Can't I use that to do this without connecting to Moza and doing all these things? Can't I just get that? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so yes, these specific data points are available via your Fitbit, but I actually haven't been able to find my heart rate variability in the app. So I know that it collects it, but pulling out the specific data points that are relevant to the problem that you're working through is really one of the strengths of this. And then combining it with that experiential data and eventually with the biochemical data, putting that all together to really understand how your body is responding in this particular area is a huge part of the value. And then also just recording the right time frames. So, I look at my app every morning to see how I slept last night, but those are just snapshots in time. I don't really have any kind of combined data sets that say, for this period of time, when you were doing this, this is how you responded. And that's what this does. It collects that pre-data and it collects that post-data and gives you a really clear picture of exactly the information you need for the question that you're asking.
Cool. I think that's really cool. I have more questions about, I think, the devices, but when the time is right, I want to ask you a few more things, but let me know when the moment is good to jump in with you. Okay.
I think now's a good time because I have a couple other thoughts. They might be the same ones that cover on that topic.
No, I just think that, I think one common questions will be, people might wonder, well, do I have to have a device? I don't have one. Another question people will ask is, I wear it, but I take it off and on. I don't like to wear it every hour of the day. Is that okay? And if and then also related to that is, what's the best time to wear it, right? Do I have to have, does that matter,
Mhm.
I think that question is guys, I've heard you talk about Fitbit. There's lots of products out there. There's wonderful products. And do I have to have a Fitbit? So those are three things that kind of come to my head. I think
Perfect.
people are wondering about.
Yeah, let's take those. So first, starting with the Fitbit. First, I want to say that we are not affiliated with Fitbit. We are not paid by them. We are not encouraged to use their name. That just happens to be the devices that we're using and where we're starting. And that's the important part. That's a starting point. It's the first device that we've gotten integrated, and we're going to be bringing in more and more other devices. So stay tuned there.
Cool.
Next, on the topic of not having a Fitbit or not having a wearable device, they're not at all necessary. You can still run the self-care experiment, still do the questionnaires, and you'll still actually be able to see the social data. So you'll see how other people responded in the experiment via their Fitbits. You just will have a little bit less data. So these scores obviously won't show, and then you won't have data showing tracking here. But you'll still get an answer based on your questionnaire. And then what was the last
question? Say, do I have to wear them all day? And if I do, and when I do, what's the most important time of day to wear them? Does it matter?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So for most of these, nighttime is actually the most important time to wear it. Yeah, sleep data, the heart rate variability data, that stuff is typically coming during sleep. So that's most important. Definitely encouraged to just wear it throughout the duration of the self-care experiment. But again, in terms of most important time, the beginning and the end of your experiment. So when we first set up our experiment there last week, we saw that it said you need 3 days of before data. Those 3 days before and those 3 days at the end are going to be the most important time to measure, because that's what's really calculated. It's helpful to be able to see the trend of how things are responding between, but those before and after frames are the most important.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So those are our 3 data screens. We have our clear yes, no answer. We have our experiential data and our biometric data. And now this takes us from MyAnswer into MyDecision. So at this point, we've run our experiment, we've seen our results, and now it's time to weigh how much benefit we saw to how much investment, again, time, money, energy it took to run that formula in our lives, and really weigh that and decide whether we want to keep this formula and put it in our True Health toolkit, or if we want to cut it and say it's not worth my effort and get rid of it.
Cool.
Any other distinctions on how you?
No, I think that's very clear. Yeah.
Okay. So on this page, we have the option of keep or cut. We can see what other SelfExers have done and how they thought about deciding to keep or cut, and we can add our own video there also. So in this case, had a super clear yes, so going to keep this formula. And great, it has been kept. Now I have the option of posting my decision video. For this, you can upload it from your desktop, or you can shoot it live on your mobile device. And that takes us to the end. At the end, we can leave a review, we can order more supplies if we need them, and browse other self-care experiments.
Cool. Couple little questions about that. So when we say that we've selected to keep this, so you've kept this raw diet in Moza, it's a keeper for you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little about like what that means for the SelfExer to have this kept, and when they come back to Moza, to their app, and they log in, what does it mean to have it kept? Is it like archived, or is it useful? And if not, and also maybe like, what's the plan for that in the future too, where that goes? Maybe both those things.
Yeah. So right now, when you come back to your home screen, you have your filters at the top where you can see all stories throughout Moza, everything that anybody's making. And then you can filter it down by your self-care experiments that are active, that you're running, as well as your kept experiments and your cut experiments. So the kept experiments is probably going to be where a lot of people spend time, where you come back to this, you can access those self-care experiments, you can get back into the formula, can get back into your answer to check back in with it. And you're also still following the community and any posts that are coming up under any of those kept self-care experiments. The conversation is continuing. That's where you'll continue to get more ideas from other people who responded similarly to you.
Cool. Okay. Well, that was really terrific tour of Moza. We've kind of gone through the 6 steps of how you create one, and we kind of did our prequel kind of how you make one, as of how you join and run one, and what you experienced. So given that, and it's almost kind of, we try to run these to about half an hour or so. What do you think next week we should go over? What should we do next week? What are your thoughts?
I think next week we should take a look at actually making a self-care experiment. What is that process like?
That I think would be awesome. Let's do that. Let's do that. Sara, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great session, and look forward to next week on actually just making one. We'll dig in and just stand it up right there. Awesome.
Yep, make one real time.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Sara. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.